Copyright disclaimer. Under Title 17 U.S.C. Section 107, allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, and research. Fair use is permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing, nonprofit, educational, or personal use, tips a balance in favor of fair use. Okay, you guys, this is from Scientology online courses, public information where no privacy is warranted. This is their perverse ideas about overts and withholds. What I want everyone to keep in mind while they're listening to me read this: FBI, Department of Justice, Homeland Security, unless Trump closes you down, whomever is going to be responsible for going after child abusers and child traffickers and actually really do something. To keep in mind that the overts and withholds are applied to toddlers, young children from 3 all the way until approximately 11 years old, 12-year-old to 17, which in the United States, in the United States of America, that is a minor. Unless they marry them off early, because, they're really into that thing. Anything to get out of liability. Overt acts and withholds. Overts, when someone does something harmful that goes against a moral code they have agreed to. This is what is called an overt act, or more simply, an overt. This is any harmful action that a person has done against himself, his family, his group, any other living thing, or objects or property. An overt is something a person has done that he wouldn't want to have happen to him. Scientology. Does that go for a child who has been sexually abused, against his or her will? Or do you just say, oh, you pulled it in, it's your fault. It's your fault, adult in a child's body. It's your fault. An overt, like a sin in Catholicism, but Scientology is not a real religion anyway, so. I never was a real fan of all that sin stuff. I grew up metaphorically as a Catholic, and I was into it for a while. I'm not into any of those type things anymore. Why would you be in a religion? And I'm sorry if this gives shade to people, but this is my opinion. Why would you be involved in any religion that's constantly making you feel guilty? Just saying. Okay, back to the article. An overt can be done on purpose or by accident. And since I skipped a paragraph, you guys, sorry. I'm going to go back to the last paragraph. An overt is something a person, like a child, FBI, has done that he wouldn't want to have happen to him. Like an RAPE of a child. How about that? Overts do not have to be large. Something as simple as showing up late, like a child showing up late for muster at 8 in the morning or 6 in the morning, depending on where they're at. Something as simple as showing up late or not doing a professional job at work is an overt. Like a child who's on the assembly line and he didn't do the wrapping on the CD fast enough or the DVD. Child labor and all. That would be an overt. Overts can also include damaging equipment. Like, did Danny Montalvo, who lost his finger as a child, did he damage equipment? Or wait a minute. What about, I forget her first name, the Moxon girl? Did she damage equipment? Wrinkled up suit, Kendrick Moxon? Huh? Did she damage the equipment when she decided to end things? And everyone there covered up? That's my opinion. It's free to have an opinion. Overts can also include damaging equipment, hiding things from one's boss. You know, like a child boss. Like a child boss or a child manager. Like Serge showed in one of his videos the other day. A child, 13 years old, made a manager in Scientology, which is against the law. Taking illegal drugs, you know they're obsessed with this. You know. LRH. Hubbard, the biggest drug addict on earth, made up these rules. Drinking while driving? Well, I thought, it's my understanding that a lot of these young people, children, that would be from ages 16 to 18. You know, we got to clarify for morons. 16 to 18, they are not allowed to drive. Could that be, unless they're driving, you know, maybe there would be an exception to the child drivers that the LAPD witness and do nothing about, the child drivers that drive the slaves from one building to another in Los Angeles. Or perhaps they don't even have a valid driver's license, you know, because Scientology doesn't have to follow the laws. But most often they don't want people having a driver's license because then they can escape. It's all these multi-levels of isolation. I have never in my life, and I mean, I haven't studied things that much, to be honest, but I imagine this level of isolation might be found in China or Korea. I forget which side, because I'm very dyslexic, you guys, but the side of Korea that's very communistic, you know, in theory. Drinking while driving or otherwise breaking the law. Can you imagine they even have the nerve to say that out loud? They have the nerve to say breaking the law. An overt is also something someone, like a child, didn't do that he should have done. Oh, like a chore? Or let me guess, because Scientology, the adults in Scientology that are abusing the children, love to make the children scrub toilets with a toothbrush. They love to make children scrub the dumpsters that oftentimes have full-grown maggots in them from rotten food with a toothbrush. Is that what you mean, that they didn't do something they were supposed to do? Does this remind you guys of breaking someone's will? You know that's part of it, right? That's part of the Aleister Crowley break somebody's will. What does Aleister Crowley say? Do without will shall be the whole of the law. That means you can do anything. For those that didn't know, now you know. An overt is also something, okay, I already read that. For example, seeing a child about to hit a younger child. Do you mean like a manager? Do you mean like a child slave manager that is going to hit a child slave laborer? Is that what you mean? An overt act is doing something, an act of commission, or not doing something, an act of omission. Well, one thing Scientology is good at is omission. Omission of love, omission of care, omission of parental duties, omission of parental duties. That does the least good for the least number of people. See all these inversions? It's all this groupthink fuckery. Or areas of life, the most harm to the greatest number of people or areas of life. This is the inversion. In all of these first generation Scientologists, I didn't know. I mean, maybe there's things going on behind closed doors that we don't know, that they're apologizing to their children, but there needs to be a hell of a lot more of this. You cannot do all these things to children and just act like, but I didn't know. I mean, maybe you didn't know, but there needs to be some type of recompense. I mean, like, it's enough. It really, truly is enough. Rinder was real good at omitting all those things. And he was a child slave himself. This would include a person's family, group, or team, and mankind as a whole. That is the inversion. That is black magic. You guys see what's going on right now? Inverting everything? Wakey, wakey. What's supposed to be up is down, and what's supposed to be down is up. Mutilating and all those kinds of things. Hello. Many people think that any destructive action is an overt, simply because it is destructive. Well, that's one thing Scientology's got freaking down to they got it down to an art. To them, all destructive actions or omissions are overt acts. See how they keep people, boy, am I goofy today. Do you see how they keep people in line to include children? For example, a poisonous snake that is about to bite a small child. Oh, now they're a child, you guys. Now they're a frickin' child. A snake like frickin' Hubbard? Excuse me. You know, Hubbard knew all what he was doing. His son outed him. I believe it was an article in Playboy. For example, a poisonous snake that is about to bite a small child should be harmed in order to save the child. Assistance to a harmful or destructive activity or thing can be also an overt act, such as helping robbers to get away from the police. Oh, hold on, guys. I got to get a sip of my coffee. A beneficial act reminds me of an act of benevolence in Christianity or Catholicism. You know how they talk about that? Is something that helps broadly. There's another asinine statement by Scientology. It can be a beneficial, well, more so LRH. It can be a beneficial act to harm something that would be harmful to many people in areas of life. Can you imagine them saying this stuff? It's unreal. The idea of not harming anything and helping everything are both rather mad. Okay, you guys, if you don't like swear words, turn me off right now. What the fuck does that mean? I'm going to read this again. The idea of not harming anything and helping everything are both rather mad. Like I said, what the fuck does that mean? Imagine these poor children having to hear this blubber. It's the saddest thing in the world. Helping people who make slaves of others. Can you even imagine this, you guys? You see, this is what they do. They mock. They mock. It's what they do. Helping people who make slaves of others would not be considered a beneficial action. Really. Isn't that funny? He's just rubbing it in everyone's nose, you see? And therefore would be an overt act. So that means LRH was overt. Wake up, people. You guys know who I'm talking to. But destroying a disease would be beneficial and therefore not an overt. And no offense, because I'm going through breast cancer, you guys know. Why do so many Scientologists have cancer? And why do so many of the Scientologists pass away from cancer if they're not able to destroy a disease? I'm just trying to maybe if I wake one or two people up, at least I did my job. Okay, guys, withholds. An overt that a person has done. Okay, I want to just preface this. I already know where, psychopath LRH was going with this, and I believe he had help. Wink, wink. I think where this is heading is just to extract all your personal thoughts. This is what I think it's going for. And that's also, too, that's the thought stopping that they do with people. And a lot of ex-Scientologists have explained this. And it's like, honestly, it's heartbreaking. Because a lot of these policies and things that LRH stated was for people to brainwash themselves. So they're controlling their thoughts themselves, if that makes sense to you guys. An overt that a person has done, but isn't talking about, or hasn't told anyone, you see, you're not allowed to have private thoughts, you see what I mean? Is called a withhold. A withhold always comes after an overt. Okay, I know I'm interrupting a lot, I'm sorry. I need to interject here. Do you guys really think for 1 minute that LRH, I never met him, I'm glad I didn't, but in a lot of ways, maybe he was a good writer, I'm not sure, I didn't read his books, but in some ways he appears to be somewhat idiotic and moronic. Maybe he just had some mental health issues, so I'm not shading people that have mental health issues. And granted, our school systems are not the greatest. I'm not a huge fan at all. But, didn't he flunk, a lot of these classes? He didn't do well in military. And, I know physics he flunked. But there were a lot, I imagine a lot of people would. I probably would too. But do you guys really believe for 1 minute that he just did this all by himself? I'm trying to make you guys think, man. I know what I think. Okay, more idiocracy. For example, a woman who steals money from her employer. Or maybe I'm thinking to myself, because initially I think LRH called Scientology a business, so it was all employer, employer titles. Are they trying to make people rat themselves out? You guys see what I mean? Oh, it's so sick, you guys. Starve people to death, and then the kids, half the time, the children have to steal food. How many times have we heard about that, which is heartbreaking? For example, a woman who steals money, it's got to be a woman, right? You guys know this, right? Misogyny on crack. From her employer has committed an overt. She then doesn't tell anyone about it, which makes it a withhold. Okay. By withholding an overt, something interesting occurs with people. They stop communicating to the person. Listen to this shit, man. By withholding an overt, I gotta read it again. Something interesting occurs with people. They stop communicating to the other person or things they have harmed and end up withdrawing, moving away, or pulling back from areas where they used to be active. This seems so crazy to me. So if you have a private thought that you, let's just say, we got to use a woman because, it's always women that do it, right? So a woman, let's see, she stole, what did he say? She steals from her employer, like Scientology, because this is where this is going. let's say the woman who's an employee, oh no, let's make her 15 because they like to call children adults, right? So let's say a 15-year-old girl, because to me a 15-year-old is a young girl, steals a stapler. She doesn't want to tell anyone. She's not going to tell her boss, who's probably a child as well. She's not going to tell her boss that she stole the stapler. So she's moving away or pulling back from areas where they used to be active. Do you guys see this? The insanity? And honestly, this right here, the withhold, is just to get people's personal thoughts. Nobody's allowed any secrets. Which you guys know, that's where the pedophilia and all that other stuff comes in. In Scientology, there are now tools to resolve the problems. Of course, now they're going for the sale. The problems presented by overts and withholds, like for children especially. Enabling people to again feel part of a group. They push the group thing way too much. They don't want anyone to have any individuality at all. And they annihilate families. And I do feel tremendous empathy for a lot of these folks. But all it would take is just everyone to say, you know what, F this, I'm out of here. Especially for your children. Especially for your children. And if you're a Scientologist under the radar thinking about getting out, you gotta, I get goosebumps just saying this. I get emotional about this stuff. You gotta do it for your children. How could you possibly carry on all these abuses, especially if you were abused as a child? Okay, feel part of a group and to restore the trust and friendship of others, which we know is non-existent. People don't understand that until they get out, and everyone cuts them off. But there's room for forgiveness. There is. You guys know what the complete this next step is. Wait, you guys know, we already know what it is. Of course. It would be funny. I'm not telling anyone to do this because I believe in following laws. But wouldn't it be funny if a whole bunch of people sent emails that, you got to have a junk email, of course, just to see what happened? I'm not saying to do it. I didn't say it. Eyes to see did not say it. Might be a way to get people out. I'm just saying. Okay, you guys, I'm going to leave a link in the description box. Like and subscribe if you choose. Otherwise, have an amazing day or night wherever you are. Peace.